distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zati. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. And it's with great privilege and pleasure for me to welcome the book launch of Even in Silence by Dania Atira. A round of applause, everyone. Our first speaker is Ms. Vivian Ng. She's the Chief Psychologist at the Ministry of Social and Family Development. I wanted to know the equation between Dania and Ms. Vivian. This was an excerpt from her book. My role over the past few years has no longer been that of her psychologist, but more of a mentor and a cheerleader. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Vivian.
Hi, everybody. I know all of you in different capacities. It's like my worlds are colliding right now. But I just want to, for those of you, friends of ours and friends of Dania, fellow professionals, fellow colleagues, partners, donors and beneficiaries, really just thank you so much for being here. It's such a big day for Dania, and I think those of us who are involved in her life are so excited for her in so many ways. Just bear with me. I know I'm supposed to take a short time, but when I started writing, I couldn't stop. So just bear with me, okay? She asked me to say a few words, I think probably because I have known her longer than any other professional in this process of her recovery. But I could actually, truth be told, she is not an ex-client of mine. She is so much more than an ex-client. I think she's almost like a daughter to me. And I think I'm probably more than an ex-psychologist to her, even though that's the way it's been introduced. But I do feel that the few words that I say here will really not do justice to her story. So I do beseech all of you to go buy her book, read it in its entirety, buy it for your friends, relatives, clients, because I think her story really does need to be told. In my 25 years as a clinical psychologist working in both the mental health and the social service sectors, I don't think I've come across somebody like Dania, and very few of my clients make that kind of an impact on me, and she has been the one that has made the most significant and lasting impact as a client. And the fact that so many of you here are gathered to share this joy with her of the book launch is really testament to the fact that she's special to all of us here. I first met Dania when she was 15 years old when she joined our REST group, and I later followed up with her in individual therapy for a number of years until she aged out of child protection system. And I continued, as was mentioned, as a role of a mentor, like a godmother, fairy godmother, I don't know, something, in some kind of capacity, not quite as a psychologist anymore. And through the years, I've witnessed her grow from a confused and troubled teenager to a capable and beautiful young woman. And although I say I journeyed with her, I think a more accurate description would be that I was taken for a roller coaster of a ride as her psychologist. I think you know what I mean, Dania. There have been so many precious moments that we shared over the years in formal therapy and afterwards, and I was privileged to be a witness to many significant events in her life. We've gone through a lot. There were times that we had long discussions about some of her thinking because of the abuse that was not healthy, and we trashed it out in sessions. I also, went through a stage when she struggled sometimes with me and pushed back, withdrew, said, I don't want to go for therapy anymore, then came back. and then I saw her slowly digest and understand the dynamics of the abuse and its impact on her. And we sat through a whole lot of processing of strong feelings when she felt bewilderment, anger, grief, rage, desperation, hope, joy, relief, and then the cycle would repeat again. And we pondered over many, many things in therapy: the mysteries of life, love, family, suffering, injustice, existence. But what I want to say is that even in the most desolate and precarious times of her life, there was always that glimmer of hope in Dania. I remember always talking to my colleagues, there's something about her, there's some resilience about her that I can't put my finger on. She somehow bounces back even in the worst of times. And believe me, there were bad times, a lot of bad times in between, even in therapy and after. But no matter how bad, she never stopped holding on to the belief that things could get better, that and she never stopped reaching out to people who could help her. That's why all of you are here. You've been her friends, her supporters. And she never stopped picking herself up. I think when I first knew her at 15, I realized that it had really taken her so much courage to just survive until that point. And I felt that if she could survive a little more, process her feelings a little more, understand a little more, trust in appropriate adults a little more, and believe in herself a little more, she would actually grow and thrive as a young adult. And all credit due to her, she has indeed. I think those of us working in this area, my colleagues and I, know that many kids who have been abused physically, emotionally, or sexually, unfortunately, they don't do well. Sometimes the prognosis can be less than wonderful. And some lose hope. Even though they're doing okay, they lose hope halfway. They make poor choices that are irreversible. They get trampled on, and then they just don't have the will to pick themselves up again. So I know that Dania's story will give them hope, because someone has made it. It's possible. Just don't give up. I think that's the story of her life. She has done it. And when I was invited to speak by Sue, my friend Sue, and Lai Yong at the College of Alice and Peter Tan a couple of years ago, I invited Dania to come and share her story. At that time, she had shared it with the new rascals who came in, and it was great. But I was a bit worried that how she might feel, how it might impact her if she shared with the public. So I kept telling her, are you sure you want to do this? It's okay if you don't, if you're not comfortable. But she said, no, I want to tell my story. And she went there and told her story from the bottom of her heart. And that day, the students were so moved that they actually all wrote personal notes to her. And that was the start of Dania sharing her story with the public. So I really like to thank my friends, Lai Yong and Sue, for their support in helping Dania work out all the details of the publication, getting the publisher, the sponsors, arranging all the logistics, and encouraging her in this process of getting the book launch going. Dania has always had a caring and tender heart. I mean, even in the worst times, she always said, one day I will go and help somebody else with what I've been through. And I remember one session, Dania, can you remember, on the 12th floor in the consultation room, we were talking about this, and I sort of suggested, just the spur of the moment, why don't you write a book about it? Because she's so articulate and expressive and insightful, and I thought if somebody could just reap that benefit, wouldn't that be great? Kind of just planted that seed, never thinking that this would come to fruition. And I think it's really, and even to put her name on the book, we had a lot of discussions about it, and it's her own decision, it's her own motivation to write that book. And, Dania, when we sat there in the room many years ago, maybe 5 years ago, did you ever think that this day would happen when you'd be here on this stand launching your book, right? I think you really did it, and I'm so proud of you. I want you to know how special you are to me and to a lot of people here. You have done it. I know your journey is not over, and there'll be ups and downs, but never forget how far you've come and how important this book is for those who have yet to start the journey. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Vivian. We have here with us the next speaker that I'm about to call out. He's part of the publishing team, Dr. Tan Lai Yong. He is now teaching at the College of Alice and Peter Tan at NUS, mentoring undergraduates through a module called Hidden Communities. Dr. Tan, please. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm a latecomer to the scene, the whole saga. Mrs. Su Ko and I, we teach this module called Hidden Communities in Singapore. And we had this sobering privilege of having Dania and Vivian come and share with us. And that was a couple of years ago. And this book, even in silence, is a book that is bravely and honestly written. It's a book that we hope that will not be rewritten by any other children in Singapore. It's a sober book, and it tells as it is. I hope we don't go away saying, wow, this guy was so terrible, that officer so blur. This book is not about judging people. It's telling it as it is. Sure, along the way, people could have done better. Of course, there were heroes and the people who done it so much. It's not a book to point fingers, but it's a book to share with us that whether victim or counselor or school teacher, if something like that has happened, what should early intervention look like? How can we become better in prevention? How can we become better in restoration. Even in Silence is a book that brings light into a very tough situation. We salute Dania for her just gentle courage in making this open. There was discussion about whether this book should be anonymous. Approached lawyers to say that whether we'll be sued if we put these people's names in the book. But this is about Singapore, about dark corners and how we need to bring a light into these corners. Right, so thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing the light, or bringing a voice. It's always like there are people who are generous and kind, who see the value of this. So the cost of these books have been supported, paid for by generous donors. And for today, also a donor has bought up a stock of the books. And we want to get the message out. So all of us will buy a book at $10, that's given. But we encourage you to buy bundles, of 4 books at $10 each, and to bring back to your schools, to communities. Just write your name and who you'd like to give to. And a special word, all of us here, think of 4 fathers. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, huh? Not F, right? 4 men that we can give this book to. You know, in schools, in social circles, we teach girls, don't dress like that, you get raped. But we seldom teach the boys, it's wrong to rape. We seldom tell the boy, it's wrong to take advantage of girls. But we always tell the girls, don't do this, don't do that, don't put yourself in a precarious or dangerous situation. But the message needs to get out to the guy. Hey, you big guy, it's wrong to take advantage. To stand up, be a true man. So, very happy to share that. Buy a book at $10 each, right? Buy a bundle to give out to somebody who could benefit from reading the book, and especially think of 4 big guys who need to read the book, because they are the first line in prevention of child abuse. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tan. Very inspiring, thank you. Those who just joined us, thank you for being here once again. All right, now we have the firecracker that's about to set the stage on fire. At 23, I feel like she's pretty successful right now, right? She's a responsible working professional, and she's full of recharged energy. The voice of the voiceless is what you mentioned. We have with us today the young, the restless, the brave, the author of Even in Silence, Dania Atira.
I couldn't face it myself initially. Everyone was having their own childhood. I was only a kid, and I was only 9 years old. I kept convincing myself that the abuse didn't happen, and I knew that it wasn't a dream, however much I wanted it to be.
It's showtime, let's go!
But I'm finally ready. I am my own person now. And that's why I'm stepping forward. I wrote this book for the people who are suffering in silence. I want to be the person that proves that there is life after an abuse.
When I show off to the whole crowd.
Alright, for those who are present today, you have had 3 choices to make the moment you RSVP'd to this event. The first choice was, of course, to come. And the second choice, to not come. The third choice, you know what, it's a Saturday, I'll see how it goes. So thank you for making it a choice to be part of this celebration today. Being the voice of the voiceless wasn't inspired through watching the general elections, where citizens actually choose who gets to be their leader. But it was a personal calling for me after going through family violence myself. I did not come up to my former psychologist a day after my abuse and tell her, you know what, yesterday I was abused, but today I'm perfectly all right. Can you certify me as recovered already? The impact that family violence has on any one of us can be so debilitating. I used to ask God, why me? Or when will I eventually recover? This was followed by long days of silence or even years of not knowing what good could come out from something as tragic as child abuse. But today I realize why we are made to go through certain trials in our life. So this book that I've actually written, even in silence, is the hardest piece that I've ever written in the whole 23 years of my life. It was filled with a lot of emotions that had no name to it, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to please everyone with the publication of this book. But even from the beginning, my main intention had always been, firstly, for the victims or survivors of family violence, to let them know that there is life after an abuse, not just any kind of life, but a life where they can transform that pain into constructive thoughtfulness. And second, to the professionals involved in the family violence framework, to take a step back to reflect on their practices so that they will be able to better support the caregivers who may be struggling to support the child due to the intrafamilial conflicts that is happening. And the third is, of course, the public. To have an I See, I Act initiative. And what do I mean by that? It is not the capturing of an abusive act, posting it on Facebook, sharing it. Okay, sharing will not end the violence, but reporting to the relevant authorities will. And sometimes we just really need people who really care to do the right thing. I thank God for blessing me with a group of people during this journey. They have made me fearless to actually face myself as well as the challenges that was ahead of me. My foster family in general, they have been my heroes and my greatest strength every day in my life. Their life could have been free from the harassments from my abusers, yet they have chose to take care of me and they made me part of their family. And they actually protected me, even though at that time I felt that I wasn't worth of anyone's protection. And I know that I will forever not be able to repay the love and kindness that they have shared with me. To my friends, mentors, as well as people who have worked on my case, they became my sound vessel. They've always believed that I was more than what was hurting me inside. And I was missing out a lot on life, actually, because I was thinking about the what ifs and if only. And sometimes you just need this sound vessel to come up to you and tell you, hey, you're moving on the right direction. I would like to also thank a group of anonymous donors who never knew me or my story, yet had that faith to invest their time and resources in this dream of mine, as well as Ms. Vivian, Dr. Tan La Yong, Mrs. Su Ko, my editor, Sun Chu Siang, yeah, she's here today, yeah, for teaching me a lot during this publication journey. I'm sure that something good will come out from this whole publication. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that what is real in your life is who you are and the relationships that you have created. No one will look back in their lives and wish that they could have stayed longer in the office or chased for that big promotion. But we all will remember the people who have stood by us when everything else had fallen apart. My empowerment today wasn't a result of a group of people, my empowerment today wasn't a result of my education or the self-help book I've read to boost my confidence, because honestly, I don't usually speak into public like this, not as much as 100 plus. Yeah, but it was actually, it was a result of the people who have stood up for me when I was once that person who struggled with my life. And I knew that I have to take this stand to be the voice for the victims of family violence as well as survivors, so that they are empowered to know that they can end the vicious cycle in their family. So I would like all of you to know that you are actually in the envious position of being in a place with great possibilities. And that I know sometimes we are very scared to actually break the silence. But enough of being silenced, because silence have actually killed many. So it is my honor to take this step to actually break the silence. So ladies and gentlemen, I actually present to you, Even in Silence. Thank you.
Well, Dania, your story is only a story of hope for the hopeless. Okay, we'd like to thank the following organizers and sponsors for Even in Silence team, with the support of We Are Around You, Moment SG, and Points of View Singapore. Thank you. The crew and everybody that's present here today. Please give yourselves a round of applause.
I would like to thank all my sales and registration team. My family couldn't have done this without them. And also my application. Yes, thank you.